Good day, and welcome to this tutorial in which we are going to look at basic descriptive statistics and their use in road rehabilitation design. Now, if you are involved with road rehabilitation design, you will often have to deal with a large set of data. And this data could, for example, be all the rut depths collected in the slow lane of a rehabilitation project. So this could be high-speed rutting data or visual data. Any data that can form a set of numbers is basically a set of data in which you will have a need to summarize that data concisely. And it's very useful if you've got a grasp of descriptive statistics to be able to do that. Now, what I have found is that it's often useful to describe a data set in terms of three main elements, and these are the central tendency. In other words, where is the data generally located around? The range and variation, which is then how widely is the data spread and what is its deviation from the central tendency, and then also limiting values. So these are things like the minimum, maximum, and percentiles. In other words, how much of your data falls below a certain value. And what I have found that in practice, it's often good to summarize your data very concisely by means of a distribution graph such as this one. And what you can see in this graph is that this frequency breakdown or histogram shows us very concisely and also in a very graphical way what is the central tendency of our data. And you can see here, as I'm delineating with the mouse, that's basically where the data is generally located around. We've got an indication of the range of our distribution of data, and also we can see what the shape of the distribution is like, whether it's a symmetrical distribution or more of a left or a right skewed type of distribution. And then what I found is that if you include with a histogram such as this one a text box with some basic descriptive statistics like a percentile, minimum and maximum number of observations, then a single graph like this can often provide the most concise and yet at the same time detailed breakdown and information about a set of data. So what I'm going to do in this tutorial is to show you how to do a frequency histogram such as this one, first of all in Excel, and then we are going to show you what tools are available in Rubicon Toolbox to achieve the same effect. So I'm just going to switch here to my Excel, and what I've done here is I have set up a basic example data set consisting of high-speed rut depth data collected in the left wheel path, and I've shown it here stated versus the kilometer position, and this data goes down for quite a while, so I've got about 7 kilometers of data collected every 10 meters for this project. And I've also summarized here at the top just basic descriptive statistics, and you can see here from my formula that I've used just the basic Excel formulas to calculate the minimum, the 10th percentile, median, mean, or 90th percentile. You can see there's my Excel formulas, and then also the number of observations. Now what I would like to show you now is how you can achieve a frequency breakdown or a histogram of this data using some of the functions available in Excel. And I've summarized the basic steps for you here, so you can just take a note of that, and I'm just going to illustrate that. So the first step is to set up your bin range. In other words, the bins in which you want to break down your data. Now to do that, I'm going to look at the minimum, which is 8.7 millimeter rut is the minimum recorded, and the maximum is 23 millimeters. So I want to make sure that my bins cover that range. So if I start at 8 and I add a 2 millimeter in each bin, then if I just drag this down, that gives me my bins up to 24, and I can be sure that all of my data will be grouped in here because the minimum is more than the smallest bin, and the maximum is less than the largest bin. Now to get a frequency distribution for these bins, I'm going to use a very handy Excel function known as the frequency function. And the first step to execute this function is to select the cells next to my bin range. So that's the second step here in my list of steps. So you see there I've selected the cells next to my bin range, and then I start typing equals frequency. So I'm just starting to type equal frequency, and you'll see Excel auto completes it there for me. And if I open my brackets, it prompts me for a data array and a bins array. So my data array is basically my rut depths here, and that's what I'm going to select. So I'm just going to drag that all the way down, or select that, and then I put a comma to get my bins array, and I'm just going to press the home key to go all the way back up, and now I must select my bins array, which is now in this location. And then if I close my brackets, I can then execute the last step, which is to press Shift, Control and Enter at the same time. So that's what I'm going to do. I hold down the Shift key and the Control key, and then I press Enter. And there is a frequency breakdown immediately of my data given for me there. So this is a very handy functionality in Excel. So this is then the number of observations, and what I can then do is just to want to center this data neatly. And now what I can do is just to quickly draw a graph of this data. So there's a basic bar graph, and after some formatting, this graph can very easily be made into something that looks like this. So I'm just switching to my next sheet, and I've got a completed graph here which shows me my breakdown. I've got my bins neatly numbered, and I've also added a text box here which shows me my key statistics that I want to include in my summary. So I'm not going to talk about that because that's just basic Excel formatting. Now it's quite usual that in the course of a normal road rehabilitation project you will want to do something like I've just illustrated for you several times. So you may have rut depth data over each one of your subsections, or maybe you've got roughness data, layer thickness data, and so on, so that you actually want to do these type of summary graphs quite quickly and conveniently. And to enable you to achieve that, we've built a tool like that into Rubicon Toolbox 4+. And I'm just going to illustrate very quickly using the same data set how Rubicon allows us to do that. So I'm going to switch to Rubicon Toolbox 4+, and what I'm going to do is just go and open a new analysis, and I'm going to choose from the data analysis toolset statistics report. I click on OK. I'm going to rearrange my panels here, and the first step is to select the Excel file with the data that I want to analyze. So I click on that file, and it's this file called teststats1 on my computer, and it's just notifying me here that if I do open an Excel file for analysis like this, any changes to the file that I make in this window will not be stored in the Excel file. So it's important. What we recommend is that actually only change your data in Excel and save it there. And this window in Rubicon Toolbox then is used only to select your data. So the first step for me, after I've selected my spreadsheet, you can see that spreadsheet is now included here. Everything that's in that Excel sheet will be shown for you in this panel over here. Just going to make it a bit bigger. And what I want to do now is to select the range of data that I want to do my analysis on, and I'm just going to select then all of this data over here. So I can press Shift, Control and the down key, and that would automatically select all the data, and then I just click on Draw Report, and there is my Excel report drawn for me with descriptive statistics stated. And I can now go to Graph Options, and I can go and do some changes here. For example, the x-axis I want to call left wheel path rut depth, and that is in millimeters. And you can see that Rubicon will show you a trend line which outlines the shape of the distribution, and I'm just going to turn that off in my options here, and that gives me a graph like that. If you want to use a slightly more artistic scheme, like a colored scheme, you can just choose that colored scheme here in your graph settings as well. And there you can see quite a neat graph. And if I want to put this graph in a Word report or Excel report, I can just go and click on this clipboard icon here. And if I go back now to Excel, I go in there and I just paste, and there I've got very quickly a nice graph saved for me. So this is a very handy tool to very quickly summarize a range of data. You do most of your preparation in Excel, which I believe most engineers are comfortable with. And what you are actually achieving with Rubicon Toolbox, or what you need to do, is just to select the data, click on Draw Report, and format your graph. You'll also see that in this bottom panel here is all the main statistics are summarized for you, and this also you can just copy, and you can paste this right out into Excel or wherever you want. So I'm just going to paste it in here, and you'll see if you look at these values that I've just pasted in here, the mean, and you compare that to what Excel got, or the 90th percentile, which you find over there, you'll see it's exactly the same values, because Rubicon Toolbox basically uses the same formulas as Excel does. So that's it in a nutshell, the use of the Descriptive Statistics tool, and thank you for watching this tutorial.